Welcome into the Daily Wolves podcast. I'm your host, Evan. I'm here with Andrew. This is the Daily Wolves Courtside, and today we have a special guest in the house. That is going to be Tony East. I know you covered the Pacers over there, Tony. Kind of giving you a shout out. The Wolves are going to be facing against the Pacers when people are listening to this episode. That game will be coming up. We'll be previewing that and more coming up. But first, Tony, how you doing today? And where can they find you, man, if they want to give you a follow or see your work?
Yeah, I covered the Pacers for a while. Right now at Forbes, and I host Locked On Pacers. And excited to watch the Wolves, who somehow have not played the Pacers by March 17th. What is this? What is this scheduling?
Well, that's just how the NBA is sometimes, and I feel like they're lining it up just for now because both teams they're coming into this where they've struggled this year. Both teams have kind of had different ups and downs. You know, Indiana not so great against the worst teams, I guess, in the NBA. Minnesota sharing the same problems in the beginning of the year, not necessarily performing up to standard. From an outside perspective, Tony, I guess first, like, what do you see of the Timberwolves? They obviously make the trade for Cat and the big time trade there. Shake up the roster.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No. I just got to get your opinion, man, because I'm just curious.
Well, I thought, first of all, this is unrelated to your question about the team this year.
Yeah.
They get a lot of heat for the Cat trade right now. And I'm like, the point of it wasn't this year, right? Like, why? Of course they're going to be worse. They kind of knew that. That was the point. Regardless of that, I'm kind of surprised. Like, they're really good right now. The Pacers are catching them at a bad time. I've been not surprised, but like all year I've kind of wondered, like, why aren't they a little bit better? Their defense was so good last year. I thought that they could, even without Cat, carry most of that into this year. And they kind of have the same Tyrese Haliburton issue in that Cat does help their defense by helping them score so much that they can set their defense, right? Like, I get all that part of it, but I thought they'd be closer to where they were last year defensively in a way that even without Cat, they would still be really good. And they've just been kind of pretty good, And I think now that Randle's back, they're winning a lot. Of course, they've won 8 in a row right now. But between DiVincenzo's preseason heater that I was like, oh boy, maybe this will be awesome for them. And, the reality of what their defense was last year, I thought they'd just be a little better than they were until March, where now they're like, this is more, maybe not 8 wins in a row, but kind of what I thought Minnesota could look like if Ant takes a step forward and they can get closer to that defensive level and all the pieces really start to click. I love the Dillingham in the draft, right? Like, it just always has felt like they have like one little thing that if they got going a little better, they would look better. And it's finally happening, even though a lot of the season I was kind of scratching my head, like, why aren't they just a little better than their record says right now?
Why do you think you said that, the trade wasn't for, like, they took a step back knowing the trade? Like, me and Andrew, I guess the point I'm trying to make is we kind of feel like that trade was made, one, because you're going to be penalized with the second apron coming up. We all know the penalties. So if you don't move Cat, then you're going to have to move him now. And then you're kind of in the position that Phoenix is in right now, where teams know you have to get rid of him. So the value probably drops a bit on Cat, potentially. And then on top of that, Randle obviously struggles in the beginning of the year, and you see that as well. Donte was struggling for the Timberwolves, if you followed them at all in the beginning of the year as well. Do you think that's just part about being the new team, or do you think, because we've seen Randle come out recently and he's been playing amazing for the Wolves. I'm wondering if there could have been a little bit of health issue as well if Randle wasn't completely healthy from that shoulder injury coming back, because now he's looking explosive. He looks like he's kind of ready to go, man.
He looks great. And that is this kind of all sort of speaks to the puzzling part of it for me too, because one, I just mentioned this, but like preseason DiVincenzo was like, oh boy, this is exactly what they need, right? Like, he can dribble and shoot great. Like, they don't have to play Conley and rely on this old guy all the time. And, part of the Finch appeal, even with the old version of the Wolves, was like, oh, this guy's really good at two big groups. Look what he did with the Pelicans. Look what he's done with Toronto teams with lots of bigs, right? So like, even if me and everyone else was like, oh, Randle and Gobert is a worse fit than Towns Gobert, whatever, they have the right coach to make it at least as good as possible. So maybe it was injury like you're saying, but the fact that they came out not hitting that hard, and Donte, I mean, maybe you guys can speak to the why on this more, but couldn't make anything for 2 months to start the year was really strange. Yeah, maybe it is just like, you go through an offseason preparing to play with a certain group, and then all of a sudden 2 days before camp, like, psych, you're doing that. Maybe it's some of that. There's a shell shock element of that. Maybe it's something else, but Yeah, their start was weird in a way that I didn't expect, and that's also part of it. But yeah, what are they, like 12-1 in Randall's last 13 games or something? I might be making that up, but I think they're
13-0 in their
13 and
last
13-0.
0.
13. 13 and
Yeah.
0.
Wow.
I'll kind of speak to the Donte side of it. This, he came to Minnesota Friday before training camp, and he really just kind of struggled to fit in. Mike Conley came into the training camp hurt with a wrist injury. He's been kind of a shell of himself the first few months of the season. He's really turned it on since March, but Donte was kind of thrust into a point guard role where he really had never been in that role before. Then you put on top of it that at least Minnesota fans have learning to play with Rudy Gobert is like a 4-month process. He's really good at setting screens, and he's really good at catching the ball when it is perfectly placed in his hands. And that's about all offensively. And if you're Donte and you're used to playing with Hartenstein, who can just catch the ball, spin move, hook shot, pace and space players, and now all of a sudden you're being asked to play point guard where your 32 minutes per game center is just not that talented offensively. Then you couple in that you're with a new team with new guys. It just kind of sucked for him. And I think it kind of showed, like, talking to him and in his interviews and stuff too, where he was just kind of bummed out. With Randle, it's just been, I mean, I did not expect this at all. Like, when he got traded, people from New York, some of the people that I know sent me texts of just like, he's a super good dude, but he's incredibly frustrating to watch play basketball. And I mean, the last 13 games, really since the calendar flipped over to January, he's been awesome. Like, playmaking, he's not turning the ball over nearly as much. His 3 balls going in again. He's aggressive. And like, he kind of brings the consistency that Ant doesn't always bring, where Ant will come into the game and you'll know within 3 or 4 minutes if he's decided to show up for the first half. Randle is just kind of always consistently Julius Randle, which kind of leads us into our next topic. I mean, you guys got a close up and personal with the Knicks last year. Yes. You got to avoid Donte and Randle for all the Knicks matchups to this point, but what was that animosity like with the Pacers and Knicks last year?
Yeah, Julius missed all of it, unfortunately, in the postseason, especially because he was hurt. But I mean, I think a lot of Pacers people would say that Donte was the second best Knick in that series. Like, he was amazing, man. He couldn't miss. And maybe that's why I had this like inflated sense of what his value was in that trade. I loved that trade for Minnesota. I hate how many people are like grilling him for it with their record this year. I mean, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I've written so much on it this year of just like, it's asset management, right?
Every time they sign someone with the MLE for the next like 5 years, just be like, hey, remember that one trade they made a while ago?
100%.
Yeah. And like lots of other flexibility things, obviously, beyond that. But yeah, I love the Donte part for them. And I think he was a big part of what made that series what it was. Like, even dating back to Villanova, this isn't the greatest word for it, but he just has like a snarl, that like is annoying to play against, I feel like, especially when he's just dotting threes in your face for a whole 7-game series. And so it was really fun to see that part of it. Like, he wasn't afraid to get into it. Miles Turner in game 2, I think. Game 1, I can't remember which one it was now. Aaron Nesmith a few times throughout the series, right? That got chippy really fast, as Knicks versus Hicks typically does. And it's a bummer that Randle wasn't a part of it. The Knicks could have used literally any healthy body to like make that series go their way by the end of it, obviously. But it's not like they loved each other before that series necessarily. But Donte was almost like the face of it to me. Brunson was the best Knicks player, obviously, and they had other guys who played well throughout the series. Josh Hart played 48 minutes several times, but he was the guy that like elevated the extracurriculars the most on the Knicks. And I don't even mean that in a bad way. That's good part of the playoffs. So yeah, I wonder what he'll think going into this one, only because it's been such a long time, right? Like I mentioned off the rip, these teams haven't played each other yet this year. How? It's so weird.
So weird. I think when you speak of that snarl, the way that Donte is, his playoff performance, I think it's one of the reasons Tim wanted him in Minnesota, because they struggled last year in the playoffs a little bit when Ant had those games where there was a little bit of lulls, or you needed some energy, you needed, kind of another dog, they would say, like, to be out there, right? And I think Donte brings that. He's shown now that he's a playoff performer where he steps up. He's had big clutch moments. He's not afraid to take a shot. He's one of the most confident players on at least the Timberwolves roster. And I think Anthony Edwards feeds off of that energy. I mean, when he was younger in his career, he fed off it when Patrick Beverley was here. It gave him that extra juice. He really does feed off of those guys. So to have Donte in here, I think it was also looking at how to spread it. Obviously, 3-point wise, getting another defender on the perimeter was probably big in the trade. I think when they faced in the Dallas series, they got eaten up by Donte and Kyrie Irving. They came out afterwards and said they think they're maybe one perimeter defender away from being able to compete in that series or win it. And now you get you bring in Donte and you get a guy like Jalen Clark, who they found, and he looks like another defender as well. They also get Terrence Shannon Jr. And now those guys can be, helpful for the Timberwolves this year. You might get to see some of them play next or tomorrow night. We watched Jalen Clark have a masterclass performance tonight against the Jazz. I mean, this dude looks like, obviously there's a bit of a gamble there with injury history, but just another guy on a cheaper contract that now you have under control. And things are looking up for the Timberwolves, man.
That's good. I'm happy that they're good because they made the conference finals last year. And I don't like when there's unexpected, inexplicable drops, even though that everybody will point to the trade. I don't think that's why. But yeah, I think all of that makes a lot of sense. And particularly too, he's an indie legend, so I have to gas him up. Mike Conley's very good. He's not going to be very good forever. And that's also a big part of adding that kind of fight in the backcourt.
Well, even Conley's had some struggles this year for the Wolves, man. But I mean, lately he's been playing really good. He's a veteran and he's gonna have a lot of experience going to the playoff for the guys. I think you draft Rob Dillingham, and what better of a teacher than Mike Conley to have next to your young guy like Rob, right? So I think Tim Conley's a very smart GM, and we just didn't have this in Minnesota for a long time. We were run poorly. Our ownership just changed recently, and Glenn Taylor wasn't too kind to the Minnesota Timberwolves here. So I think getting that change now, having a good coach like Chris Finch too, who this year or tonight actually moved up there, second all time in team wins already. So that kind of shows where the
4 seasons.
franchise.
4
seasons. It's all it takes. So if you want to become a coach here, Tony, you can get it in just a few years,
man. You guys remember when people? I don't remember exactly how this went. When he got hired, people thought it was weird the way it happened mid-season from like one bench to that. I was always like, why is that weird? Like, if they want him, why is that weird? And clearly it's worked out for them. He's a good coach.
They interviewed him intensely before the season started, and they ended up deciding to keep their interim coach, Ryan Saunders, Flip Saunders' kid, who now coincidentally is like the defensive coordinator of Denver. So like small world in the NBA. But anyways, they interviewed Finch a lot that offseason. He was kind of one of Gerson Rosas's guys. They both were, I think, in Houston together for a time. And then, after he pulled the trigger and fired Saunders, like he was just like, Finch is our guy. And they did get quite a bit of heat because they had a assistant, David Vanderpool, that was pretty.
That's what it was.
People thought pretty highly of him, but I mean, they loved Finch, and it's weird to say it, but he's like the perfect Midwestern coach. Like he just goes to like local breweries and like has beers with fans like on random nights.
These coaches that have coached in like England and Germany and stuff, man, they just like they're all into that community part of it. They just get what it means,
So if we were to ask you, because we haven't seen the Pacers in over a year. I think they played like
they haven't been to Minnesota since 2023. What?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a year and a half for Wolves fans that are like going into this game of like, what the heck are the Pacers even doing this year? What are the Pacers doing this year?
It's funny that like what everybody thinks of the Pacers is still kind of the Pacers, right? Last year they were this, holy cow, they're so fast, second best offense in the league. This year their pace is almost exactly the same as last year. Unfortunately for the Pacers, everybody else now also wants to play like that. And so comparatively, they've fallen quite far in terms of their pace ranking. Their offense is not as good as last year. They're like 8th or 9th in offensive rating this year. So they still play fast and score. They try to lead the league in passes. They've been very close 2 years in a row. All of their style and the way they play is possible because of Ant's Team USA teammate, Tyrese Haliburton. 2 years in a row, Team USA teammate, by the way. I think the only World Cup Olympians doing the duo back-to-back. Now, they play that way because of him, and it works, right? They're good. They're 5th in the East for a reason. But this year, they've offset that offensive slippage, which has been for many reasons, early season injuries, Haliburton struggles, stuff like that, with much better defense. Like in January, they were a top 5 defense in the NBA, which is wild to say about the Pacers. And they haven't been quite as good, since that start to the year, but they're still hovering right about league average. They go over it or under it depending on their last couple of games, right? And so that jump has allowed them to still be really good or pretty good, whatever you want to call their record, without being an elite offense. And so they still can get to that, right? They hang big numbers on good teams all the time, and we'll get into this too. Like that's why they can beat anybody, but they've dealt with some inconsistency issues like they did last year. Their defense still isn't that threatening. Giannis just kicked their butts. That's why they can lose to anybody too. So in some ways, very similar to last year, despite a different profile. And it's kind of weird that that's how it is, but it's not weird because it's the exact same team. Their rotation is exactly the same outside of backup center.
How's Tyrese? I guess, well, everyone follows Tyrese Haliburton because it's Tyrese. I mean, why wouldn't you? That guy's so fun to watch. He's incredible. Yep. He's one of the best passers and playmakers in the NBA. He kind of had struggles. It started off last year for a little bit. Before that injury, he was fantastic. Then I think after he returned, we saw that there was a little bit of a struggle there. This year, I think he had some inconsistencies in the beginning of the year. But like, what do you see when you're up close with Tyrese Haliburton, and kind of like how's his season been, and where does he bring the Pacers' ceiling?
Yeah, he got hurt again in the Olympics, which that kind of changed the way his season started. He never said it was because of injury, so I'm kind of speaking on his behalf, but I've watched him for 3 or 4 years now, and I can tell you when he looks faster and when he doesn't look faster, and he didn't look as fast to start the season, and he couldn't create as much separation on his shot, and maybe there were other factors leading into that. He talked a lot about like finding the joy in basketball, right? Like that kind of feeling, and that's hard to recapture. But they had a break when they stunk it up in the NBA Cup, and he came out of that and was better, right? I would say since then, so that's like mid-December to now, he's been a top 20, 25 player, right? So all-star level, but he was awful to start the season, like actually a negative on-off player for the Pacers for the first 20 or 25 games. And then since the all-star break, he's been all NBA level. Again, he looks faster, like he's actually beating guys to the rim. His drive numbers are way up. He's just had a 20 plus point, 15 assists, 0 turnover game. They played Philly last Friday. Tyrese Haliburton had 10 assists and 1 turnover, and it actually brought his assist to turnover ratio down since the all-star break, right? Like that is the level he's at with his passing right now. So his season's just kind of been really segmented of like awful, pretty good, really good, hurt again. He's kind of like in the middle level right now. So it's really tough to say. Like I used to think in road games he was going to get up and be awesome, and maybe he will in Minnesota. He loves playing on the road. Seems like there's always some crowd member in him that are going back and forth. This year he's awesome at home and not so good on the road. The splits are very jarring, and maybe it's just a small sample thing year to year, but he's questionable for this game. I can't remember what with, like half the Pacers might be out, but he's been really exceptional of late. I think they're 9 now and 4 in the last 13 games he suited up in. So he's not reaching Julius Randle levels, but doing his part to boost the Pacers. And if he does play, he is at least an all-star level talent for the Pacers. And when he's on the floor, gives them a chance to at least keep up or win those minutes. The rest of the minutes, not so great for the Pacers to play.
What's the rest of the Pacers kind of lineup like? I mean, Pascal Siakam's been throughout his career with the Raptors, he's been a Wolves killer. Right? He always shows up for some reason to play in Minnesota. I mean, it seems like the Pacers have talent. I mean, Miles Turner, the Wolves again didn't trade for him, so we'll wait until next year.
Him and Gobert always have a thing too, right? Like I think it was the 2019 World Cup. Like there was this France USA stuff, and like who's the better defensive center? And like the answer was Gobert, but that was still a thing being talked about back then. And then in Utah, they literally got into like a fist fight and both got ejected in 2021 or 2022. Like there's a thing there. So that'll be fun. But yeah, the Pacers are super banged up. Turner's questionable. Neesmith is questionable. Neesmith just had a career high 30 against the Bucks 2 days ago. Haliburton's questionable. The back thing and his back stuff's come and gone. And Siakam's going to miss his first game with the Pacers ever for personal reasons, right? So I don't know this, right? But they've lost 4 of 6. They get a bunch of easy home games. Mavs, Nets coming up after this Minnesota game. This is the most boring thing that the NBA allows to happen, but there's a chance the Pacers punt this one in Minnesota. And if Haliburton couldn't go and Siakam can't go, I can't really blame them. Although it just sucks for fans in the product. I absolutely hate it.
That's the weird thing with the NBA is the Pacers could very well punt this one, but the Wolves are on the back end of a back-to-back, and
Right.
Evan, you can explain it. I mean, they just don't wake up for teams sometimes. They've dropped 2 in a row
Neither
to
did the
Portland
Pacers.
early in the year. They lost to Kyle Kuzma's Washington, a
Yep.
Giannis-less Bucks. I mean, they just have a way to drop these games that they should win.
Hey, the Pacers, their biggest kryptonite's the Charlotte Hornets. They can relate to this.
Utah just a few weeks ago, we couldn't beat the Jazz. So Minnesota finds a way, and that's just how they've been this year. Obviously, recently we've seen them kind of figuring some things out. They look different. The vibe's starting to look different. The teams came together. Donte and Randle have been huge monster instruments, I guess, in changing everything since being back. And but yeah, I mean, hopefully kind of what happened with the Wolves is I feel like a lot of the, Donte and Randle got to sit on the bench, analyze the game, see where they can come in when they come back and where they can fit and make an impact, be there around the coaches more and everything like that. You get a different view, I guess is what I'm trying to say, Tony, from being on the bench when you're hurt. So when you can come back, maybe you can figure out where would be the best place for you to kind of take your game to another level for your team. Hopefully that happens with you guys with injuries. Yeah, I can't believe Pascal's is going to be out tomorrow. He always kills the Wolves. So, but yeah, honestly, there's a lot of things for the next week. We obviously face each other a couple times coming up here in the next couple weeks here. What are you looking for? I guess let's just say in the second game, guys are pretty healthy for you. All right, second game matchup for you, Wolves and Pacers. How do we match up in your mind? How do you guys match up against us? What are you looking for in the game, and how do you guys come out victorious if you are gonna? Or what does Minnesota do well from what you've seen of them?
Well, they're deep, right? Which matters a lot. And the Pacers' depth has been awful recently, right? Like, I mean, I think the Wolves have good starters, but like I would trust the Pacers starters against most starting fives in the entire NBA right now. I don't think they can guard, and I don't think they can easily score on Gobert. But like when Haliburton and Siakam are on the floor, they have lots of ways to find solutions. And they just did it against Milwaukee. They were like plus 26 with those two guys on the floor, and they lost that game, right? Their bench has sucked, right? And if they're going out there and some combination of Alexander Walker and DiVincenzo and Naz Reid are out there, like they've got to be not good, like best game of the season kind of stuff, right? Or they're just going to get their stuff pushed in, and they have been awful off the bench of late. And this was like, I don't know how much into the Pacers you guys were last year, but they had like the best scoring bench in the league, and it was playing so well to close the year that they could play 9 in the playoffs like comfortably every game and play like 15 minutes of these guys and feel okay with it. They can barely play them like 10 now. They're like panicking, right? So it's not a like awesome answer for people who are like, ooh, Ant versus Tyrese is fine. Like, ooh, look, Rudy Gobert and Pascal and Julius Randle. Look at all these all-stars in the front court, the back court, awesome. Like those players will probably dictate the game. Like the game plans will spread from there like they do in every NBA game.
Mm-hmm.
But the Pacers might just get destroyed in these bench minutes and be playing catch up. Like Naz Reid's in the in that 6-man conversation every year. He's a beast. He kicks the Pacers' tails. I don't know how that's why I think right now, especially with Minnesota clicking, they're a very uniquely challenging matchup for the Pacers because they don't really have a clear way to me to have any lineup that just soars against Minnesota in a way that they do against some other teams.
What's different from last year's team that you said they weren't like this last year? They were deep. They were like 10 deep in the playoffs. Yeah. Why aren't they that way this year?
Same roster, exact same roster, right? Like no one thinks the difference for the Pacers is that Jalen Smith is like this much better than Thomas Bryant, right? That's not why. Everybody's worse, right? TJ McConnell from March 1st to the end of the postseason last year, this is not a joke. Like by efficiency and volume was like a top 10 isolation scorer in the league. He just got to his spots in the lane, flicked them up and made them for 3 months. He can still get in the lane. He's wiggly. He's hard to guard, but like he can't create the separation to make those. Like his passing's a little less effective. Benedict Mathurin can really score some nights and really can't do anything some other nights. And his defense is very good on the ball and very awful off the ball. So some nights he's really ineffective. Obi Toppin had this great resurgence with the Pacers last year, but his 3-ball has disappeared. This year he's at his best playing with Tyrese Haliburton. Unfortunately, Pascal Siakam is better than him, so he will not play as much with Tyrese Haliburton, right? Like lots of little stuff has changed in a way that made sense for the Pacers to do it all, but they don't. Ben Shepherd's really a floor raiser, not a ceiling raiser. Like he's not going to boost a bench unit. He doesn't dribble ever. And Thomas Bryant's defense has kind of evaporated since, I don't know, mid-January or so. He's not that good of a defender anyway. So that they have players who have a history of success. Damian Lillard just said after the Bucks beat the Pacers, yeah, usually that team's bench dominates against us. We had to be better as a starting group to offset that. And that has been true historically. It has been not even close to that recently with the exact same team. And I know that, the Wolves kind of ran it back outside of their giant trade right before the season, but like every team just takes on a new life. And the Pacers are seeing that the hard way this year, that what was their calling card last year that they could win with depth some nights has really held them back.
Do you feel like that's a regression back to the mean? I mean, TJ McConnell's obviously been in the league for like 7-8 years and has always been kind of an annoying weasel into the lane, weird floater shot guy. I mean, Obi Toppin was pretty bad his last year in New York. Thomas Bryant's been kind of bad everywhere. No disrespect to him.
A Hoosier. How dare you?
Do you feel like it was like last year just people played past their capabilities and this year it's a regression back? Or is it more just people are injured in and out of the lineup, can't get that flow?
Yeah, it's some of both. Like you don't expect Ben Mathurin to be as inconsistent just because like he's really young and like in theory should be ascending. And he was great at times earlier this season, right? Like with Toppin, it's very easy now to look back at last year and go, oh, clearly a one season peak of shooting, might never get back to that. And that might be true. What I just said might be reality. The Pacers have, with their current coaching staff, had a lot of success transforming guys' jumpers, including Siakam this year. Aaron Nesmith went through that. Jalen Smith went through that. So it was also very easy for a lot of people here, including the team, the front office that paid him, to go, oh, no, we think this was a real transformation in his game. He will continue to at least plausibly shoot pretty well. Hasn't been a thing. Thomas Bryant was good for them for a month and a half and has not been, and that's kind of been his entire career, right? So that one, totally could be a regression expectation. And McConnell's on the wrong side of 30, like one of their very few regression candidates entering the season. But you never really know how sharp that could be and when. Like he was one of their most consistent performers until late December, right? So some of both, right? Some of they have candidates for regression that it's hit them at a very inconvenient time, and some of just like not enough growth from young guys who showed signs of progress either earlier this year or last year that it made sense to keep investing in them, and it hasn't been there. Like their starting five has been probably better. Andrew Nembhard's way better. Nesmith looks great. Haliburton's still good. Siakam is the metronome, right? He was an all-star because he's consistent. And Miles Turner makes 40% of his threes and plays defense. That's a good unit. And they're still not winning more because they haven't quite had any sort of consistency from the guys beyond that.
Well, it'll be interesting to see them play tomorrow, and hopefully you guys have all your players except for Siakam obviously being out, because it should be a competitive game nonetheless. We see what all those guys play, and you never know with young guys too. They can always show up. Everyone loves Tyrese Haliburton and Anthony Edwards too, man.
Is this game guaranteed to be a tie? I think these are probably the two fan bases who would say their teams play to the level of their competition the most, right? Doesn't that mean it's guaranteed to end in a tie score?
With the Wolves, it depends. I mean, again, Indianapolis's own Mike Conley, he's kind of the pace setter, and he sat out tonight so that he could play tomorrow. So he will be ready to go. But this team follows Anthony Edwards' lead. So a lot of games progress. Chris Finch, I can't tell you how many post games we're sitting there and he's like, it's Groundhog's Day again, because they have this way where they come out in the first quarter, and if Ant isn't aggressive and he's not feeling it, they will get down by 10 or 11 or 12. And it'll take Donte and Terrence Shannon Jr. or Nikhil or Nas coming in to like re-energize the team. And then they come flurrying back in the third quarter and then lose in crunch time or win in crunch time in the fourth. So what we've kind of learned is either that's one route where Ant just doesn't have it at the beginning for whatever reason. The other route is Ant comes in like he did tonight and he decides the game's over in 10 minutes and it's just done. It's the weirdest thing, because the Wolves, when they beat teams, they usually beat the brakes off of them. And when they lose, it's usually by like 10 points. And there's not really any in between. And it's almost completely dictated on how a 22-year-old wakes up in the morning.
People made jokes about the whole like Tatum's 18 thing for forever. I can't believe Anthony Edwards is still only 22. Like in my head, he's been in the league for so long, man. It's crazy.
It's absolutely insane. And I mean, covering him is just insane because like
he's a banger quote every night, man. It's crazy.
Every night he's a quote. More than that, before this season, he was a league average high volume 3-point shooter. This season, analytically, he is going to go down as the best non-Steph Curry shooting season in history. In one off season,
he's going to beat Malik Beasley. USA,
he's beating Malik Beasley in like efficiency volume threes. Like he's going to go down as the non-Steph Curry best shooting season in history. And it took him one off season. He was just like, Kevin Durant told me to shoot more threes.
And he said that he took Damian Lillard's shot. He analyzed that this summer and worked with Steph Curry of how do you run off the ball, or how do you move off the ball? How do I get open? How do I do all these things? And once he saw them working, it's weird that it's amazing being able to also just talk about Ant too, from my perspective, because it's just a special player. You see it. You see something different about him every day. People listening, whether they're Pacers fans, Wolves fans, hopefully we can all come together to realize, like, at the end of the day, these stars, they sometimes are so special talents, and having a guy like Ant potentially be one of the faces of the NBA coming up when we have all these European guys coming in. We need an American guy in there, right? So Anthony Edwards, hopefully can reach to the, bring the gold medal here to USA with Tyrese Haliburton. And then maybe, one day maybe they can team up. That'd be a dream scenario for me, seeing Tyrese Haliburton throwing some. Imagine though, can you imagine that, Tony? Seeing Ant getting lob passes from Tyrese Haliburton in the breakaway?
They'd be quite the fit. And you talking about his athleticism made me realize, I think the last time I saw Ant in person was him blocking Neesmith at the buzzer. Yeah, that was insane.
Oh, man. Banging his head off the backboard. Yeah,
that was nuts. That was one of the most athletic plays I've ever seen in person. That was crazy.
I mean, he's hit his head off the backboard, and then proceeded to do the post-game interview. I don't know what else to say. That's all-world player right there.
I mean, Aaron Neesmith makes that layup against like what 99% of players in the history of the league, probably higher than that. It's crazy.
When I don't know. I guess if for Pacers fans listening to this, I mean, one, enjoy it because he plays with this ridiculous level of joy that is just. It makes you want to go shoot free throws, just kind of watching him play. And two is just when he's in Indiana, just don't talk to him. It is Michael Jordan level treatment. Everyone silent. Because when you piss him off, he just goes to this level where it's like, I mean, he blows the Suns out every year just because like Devin Booker was a dick to him. Like it's insane.
Does he have beef with the Pacers player that I'm unaware of?
I don't think he does. I know him and Haliburton. It sounds like they have a pretty good relationship.
I think they're actually kind of close.
Yeah. And I don't think he has beef with anybody, but like Jamal Murray, anytime they're matched up on each other, he's just like, I'm going to dunk on you. Certain centers, for some reason, I don't know why. Walker Kessler got dunked on again tonight. I don't know what he did to him, but Ant, when he's motivated and angry, is a whole nother beast.
Insane, man. I'm so glad we get to cover him. I'm so glad we get to watch a couple young stars that are rising in the NBA tomorrow. But Tony, we're going to wrap it up here, guys. Thanks for listening, everyone tuning in. You can find Tony, obviously, on social media as well. Definitely go out and give him a follow, read his stuff. Thanks so much for joining the show. You're welcome anytime, man. We hope to be talking to you in the future. Andrew, as always, man, thanks for being on, and we'll see you next time, guys.
We'll be back tomorrow.
We'll be back, so tune in, and we'll be live tomorrow as well, so definitely be looking for that, guys. As always, guys, till next time, go Wolves.